morning and welcome to Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor and here are the latest headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to hold talks with the Vietnamese leadership. Talks to center around strengthening defense security, counter-terror and trade ties. Centre to brief MPs who will be part of the all-party delegation to Jammu and Kashmir. Rajnath Singh to lead team of 28 MPs on 4th and 5th of September. Election Commission accords a National Party state. Trinamool Congress, the TMC, becomes the 7th political party to get national tag. Says it will play a bigger role in 2019 Lok Sabha elections. At least 12 people killed and dozens injured in bomb blast at a marketplace in Davos in Philippines. President Rodrigo Duterte was in his home city at the time of the blast. He is safe. And in the US Open, Sana Mirza mixed doubles partner win the first round. In the singles, Djokovic and Nadal advanced. Caroline Wozniacki also makes it to round 4. Our top story this morning, well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Vietnam for a day's visit, which is also the first by an Indian Prime Minister in 15 years. Now, slated today are bilateral meetings with the top Vietnamese leadership. Prime Minister will hold talks with his Vietnamese counterpart, Nguyen Xuan Phuong. Now, talks will be held around bolstering strategic bilateral ties in key areas like defense, security, counter-terrorism and trade. On arrival in capital Hanoi, the Prime Minister tweeted, and I quote him now, "Reached Hanoi. This is a special visit and will go a long way in deepening the strong bond between India and Vietnam," unquote. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also call on the President and also meet Communist Party's General Secretary Nguyen Phu Trong and the National Assembly Chairwoman. Defense, security, science and technology, trade and culture are some of the issues on the plate for these talks. Well, after Vietnam, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will head to Guangzhou, China for the group of a G20 meeting, which will be held on 4th and 5th of September. So it is going to be a crucial day for the Prime Minister as he is going to hold talks with the Vietnamese leadership today. Remember, Prime Minister Modi is on a day visit to Vietnam. This visit coming just ahead of the G20 summit is slated to take place in China on 4th and 5th of September. Now, slated today are key bilateral meetings with the top Vietnamese leadership. In fact, my colleague Neelu Thomas is now joining us live from Hanoi. Thank you so much, Neelu, for joining us this morning. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Vietnam. This is the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister in last 15 years. An important extension really to our Act East policy, with Hanoi being the central pillar of it, isn't it? Neelu, can you hear me? Neelu would like to know from you what are the updates. Now, Prime Minister is going to hold talks with the top Vietnamese leadership today, and it is going to be really important day because with the India's Act East policy, this is a big extension of it because Hanoi is the central pillar of it, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's indeed a significant day in the sense that it's a first Indian Prime Minister who comes to Vietnam in the last 15 years. A host of issues, a very packed day, events lined up just one after the other because the Prime Minister leaves for China today itself. As we talk and as we are speaking, the bilateral talks are already on between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Vietnamese counterpart. And what we have been told is a host of issues related to trade, investment, and a diverse defense networking is being looked at between the leadership of the two countries. Now remember, one has to understand here that Vietnam is one of the largest arms importers in the world, and India now wants to get into the category of defense exporting, and therefore what we have been told right now by the officials, though there's no official statement as of now, but we have been told that there could be some kind of a forward movement on the contract regarding the supply of the 4 patrol vessels given to Vietnam. So in that sense, defense is going to be one very key issue during the talks. And of course, another very crucial factor, of course not officially, but what we have been told is that China factor is also going to figure in the talks, because this visit comes very close on the heels of the final award which has been given by the Permanent Court of Arbitration.
Absolutely. And you just mentioned about the G20 summit that is going to happen in China. Well, the Prime Minister is there scheduled to have a meeting with the Chinese President as well. So discussion on India's entry to the NSG also likely to take place there?
Of course, that's a very important issue, and in fact, the very reason that Prime Minister has made a brief stopover at Vietnam before he goes to China for the G20 is itself a very significant event. It's a kind of a signal which is being sent out by India to China, and they are trying to emphasize this position that, look, India and Vietnam are together. The very fact that they share solidarity, there's some kind of a camaraderie, a friendship, but this kind of a relationship will now transform into to boosting trade ties, defense ties, cybersecurity, maritime security. So a whole lot of issues are being looked at now through this kind of a relationship. So before Prime Minister actually heads to China for the G20 summit, a very clear message which is being sent out is that Vietnam is one of the topmost priorities in Southeast Asia for India at the moment.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Neelu, for joining us this morning. You keep tracking all those developments in Vietnam. We'll keep coming back to you. Let's move on in the bulletin now. Well, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the national capital on Friday. Well, the two leaders decided to significantly step up their defense and security cooperation in order to deal with the twin challenges of terrorism and radicalization. Both the sides also agreed to cooperate on key issues like UNSC reforms and enhancing mutual trade and investment.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Friday held summit-level talks in New Delhi. Delegation-level meetings followed the talks that focused on deepening the India-Egypt relationship. The two leaders also witnessed the signing of an agreement on maritime transport before making a joint statement to the media. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said there exist multiple pillars of strengths that can be exploited by both countries. The two sides spoke about terrorism that both countries are fighting against. The Prime Minister said Egypt agreed to cooperate on fighting terrorism together with India by means of intelligence sharing.
President and I are of one view that growing radicalization, increasing violence, and spread of terror pose a real threat not just to our two countries, but also to nations and communities across regions.
We are further required to reinforce our ties and cooperation due to the sizable threats and common challenges as we face, starting from the dangers of terror and extremism that entails concerted efforts at all levels.
Addressing the threat perception surrounding the Islamic State and other terror organizations, Prime Minister Modi and President Sisi agreed to enhance cooperation in defense and security. India will help Egypt in procuring and upgrading defense equipments as well as training personnel for capacity building.
We agreed to further our defense and security engagements, which would aim at expanding defense trade, training and capacity building.
We will work for a robust military and security cooperation with India and enhance existing activities in this field. In particular, we need to translate the two countries' shared views on counterterrorism into practical measures and clear plans in a more viable bilateral cooperation in this respect.
Egypt is a major country of the sub-Saharan Africa, which has development as top priority. India is cooperating with African countries by providing investment and easy loans in the form of line of credit. At the summit meeting, both countries also decided to cooperate in humanitarian and disaster management as well. Earlier, the Egyptian president was accorded a ceremonial reception at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari also met the visiting dignitary and discussed issues of mutual, regional and international importance.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also tried to convince Egyptian President Al-Sisi about the terrorist designs of Pakistan and how it affects the whole terrorist activity in the whole region. He also said that the stand OIC takes sometimes, it strengthens the terrorist designs of Pakistan. And it will be interesting to see that how Al-Sisi goes and takes a stand in the OIC in the coming days. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Television with camera person Shiv Kumar in Delhi.
Well, let's move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has accused the self-appointed champions of Dalits for giving political colours to the social problem of discrimination against them. Now, in an interview to a private English news network, he condemned atrocities against Dalits and asked politicians, including his own partymen, to stop making irresponsible statements. He said he was committed to the welfare of Dalits and other oppressed sections of the society, but some people were levelling all kinds of allegations against him as they cannot digest that Modi is pro-Dalit. Now, he's described atrocities against Dalits as a deep-rooted social problem and said that the need is to remove such evils against such communities who have suffered for centuries. He said statistics show that the incidents of communal violence, atrocities on Dalits and atrocities on tribals are lesser during his government as compared to previous government, and that he is committed to the welfare of the community. Well, moving on, Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari has underscored the need of education for overall development of the country. Now, addressing a seminar in New Delhi on the challenges faced by elementary schools in India, the Vice President said that even after a high enrollment ratio in elementary schools, the quality of learning outcome remains undeniably poor.
Despite these significant gains, a critical appraisal of the elementary education scenario reveals that large gaps in implementation exist. India still has the largest number of out-of-school children in the world. There is also a great disparity between urban and rural education, and children from different social and geographic backgrounds have radically different schooling experience.
Well, news from Jammu and Kashmir now. Well, the centre will brief MPs who will be part of the all-party delegation to the state today. Well, the presentation will be on the contours of the tour, during which they will interact with a cross-section of people in an effort to bring peace in the troubled state. Now, Home Minister Rajnath Singh will lead the delegation that will also comprise the leader of the opposition of Rajya Sabha, Ghulam Nabi Azad, and his Lok Sabha colleague Mallikarjun Kharge. The delegation visiting the valley due to protest in the aftermath of the killing of Hizbul Mujahideen militant Burhan Wani will have 28 MPs. The visit is scheduled for 4th and 5th of September. Meanwhile, on the ground in Kashmir, curfew was reimposed in many parts, including Srinagar, as a precautionary measure ahead of Friday prayer congregations. Normal life will remain paralysed in the valley for 56th day on Friday that has seen 70 deaths so far due to violent protests. On to the other top story. Well, All India Trinamool Congress Party was extended the national party status by the Election Commission of India on Friday. The TMC qualified for the status as it is now recognized as a party in 4 states, including West Bengal, Manipur, Tripura and Arunachal Pradesh. The Mamata Banerjee-led party will join the Congress, BJP, BSP, NCP, CPI and CPM, which are now recognized as national parties. Now, there are 64 recognized state parties in the country. The party welcomed the move, saying that it was much awaited and now it aims to play a bigger role in the 2019 Lok Sabha polls.
I'm the most happiest person in my party because that time we couldn't dream even, or we couldn't foresee anything that what we are going to do. We have been expelled from the Congress party, and under the leadership of Mamata Banerjee, we are now sailing a boat.
Well, radiologists across the country have deferred their indefinite strike by a few months. Well, this came after the government assured them their issues related to the legislation on sex determination would be addressed. Now, the Indian Radiological and Imaging Association had said that it would go on a nationwide indefinite strike after it failed to reach a resolution with the government. The IRIA also held a protest in Delhi to press for their demand. The apex body of radiologists had on 31st of August given the first call for an indefinite strike from 1st of September. Later, it held talks with the Health Ministry the same day. The apex body of the radiologists has alleged that certain provisions of the Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act are draconian and these need to be amended. Meanwhile, hospital services were severely affected with the government nurses going on an indefinite strike. The massive protest has been called by the All India Government Nurses Federation and the Delhi Nurses Federation, seeking redressal of issues related to their pays and allowances. Now, government hospitals in Delhi, including those run by the centre, the city government or the civic bodies, employ about 20,000 nurses. The centre called the agitation unfortunate and said that it hopes to address the issue through dialogue. Meanwhile, the Delhi government invoked the stringent ESMA, declaring as illegal the nurses' stir. In Breakfast News, time to take a very short break. We'll have more news on the other side of the break as well. Stay tuned.
Mercury or lead. So these are actually soft acid. When they goes into the body and it damages your protein and enzymes in every tissues. You should have some drug that can actually detoxify these heavy metals in your body. So we are focusing on level of not discovery of a drug.
Watch Eureka with Dr. Gauri Prasanna Roy, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry, Shiv Nada University, only on Rajya Sabha TV.
Welcome back. Now, the All India Muslim Personal Law Board told the Supreme Court on Friday that it cannot interfere in the religious freedom and rewrite personal laws in the name of social reform. Now, in a document justifying the practice of triple talaq, the board said that its validity cannot be decided by the Supreme Court. Well, the top decision-making body of Muslims submitted that the triple talaq form of divorce is permissible in Islam as the husbands are in a better position to take a decision because they won't take a hasty decision and it is used only when there is a valid ground. The board also stated that issues of marriage, divorce and maintenance differ from religion to religion and cannot be questioned by the court. The law board also clarified that it was a misconception that a Muslim enjoys unilateral power in divorce and said that even though Islam permits polygamy, it doesn't encourage it.
मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ जो है वो हमारी शरीयत का एक हिस्सा है और ट्रिपल तलाक का मसला हमारी शरीयत में का एक अंदरूनी मामला है। इसमें किसी किस्म की कोई तब्दीली या इसमें किसी किस्म का कोई इंटरफेरेंस किसी भी जरिए से नहीं किया जा सकता।
ये एक पुरुष प्रधान ग्रुप है और ये एक बन बैठे हैं मुस्लिम समाज के लीडर और इसके ऊपर इनका रोजगार भी शायद निर्भर करता है और इनको अपनी सत्ता और अपनी जो एक तरह से कहें कि हेजेमनी है वो दूर हो जाने का इनको डर है। तो ये अपनी सत्ता और अपना पावर बरकरार रखना चाहते हैं, इसलिए इस तरह की बातें करते हैं जो कुरान में नहीं है और जो संविधान में भी नहीं है।
How a dignity could be given to a lady if she is thrown like a vegetable, uttering 3 times talaq? Is she not a citizen? Is she not a human being? A woman belonging to a Muslim community is also a human being. She is bound by all the laws that are applicable to all women in this country. For all women, one law, and only for Muslim women, why separate law? Regarding talaq, regarding adoption, regarding maintenance.
And the Supreme Court has urged Karnataka to consider taking steps to release Kaveri water to Tamil Nadu, now advising the Karnataka government to embrace the principle of live and let live. The top court said that it must help its neighbour to continue to exist as an entity. The advice comes in the wake of the court's observation that Tamil Nadu had suffered water deficits for 3 straight months in June, July and August this year. The court will now hear the case in detail on Monday.
Supreme Court, whatever has observed, it has to be studied, and the factual position has to be convinced to the Supreme Court. And the Karnataka government or the people of Karnataka do not want that only those people should suffer. But at the same time, we should look after our people, at least drinking water also. Even there is a scarcity for the drinking water at this moment. So Supreme Court should be convinced by the state lawyers and the state government about the shortage of the water and the scarcity of water we are facing and the shortage of all we are facing.
On to some international news. Well, Uzbekistan's only president, Islam Karimov, has died, leaving an uncertain future for a government marred by controversy. Now, Karimov's government has often been accused of human rights atrocities, including forced child labor, the killing of unarmed protesters, and even boiling protesters alive.
Дорогие соотечественники, с огромной скорбью в сердце сообщаем вам о кончине нашего дорогого президента Ислама Абдуганиевича Каримова.
The Uzbek government confirming the death of country's first and the only president, Islam Karimov. One of Asia's most authoritarian leaders, Karimov died after 27 years in power. He was taken to hospital 6 days back with a suspected brain hemorrhage.
Первый президент нашей страны Ислам Каримов поистине великая историческая личность, благодаря которому наша республика обрела независимость.
Human rights group called Uzbek government as one of the most repressive in the world, especially after the massacre of protesters in the city of Andijan in 2005 when hundreds were killed, the event leading to a breakdown in relations with Washington. The late leader often justified his strong-arm tactics by highlighting danger from Islamist militancy. However, his worst abuses have been ignored by the West because of Uzbekistan's location as a vital supply route for the war in Afghanistan. Russian President Vladimir Putin has called Karimov's death a great loss, with Russian Prime Minister slated to attend the funeral. Former Soviet states of Kyrgyzstan, Belarus and Kazakhstan are also sending in their delegations.
Özbekistan Devlet Başkanı İslam Kerimov hayatını kaybetti. Allah'tan rahmet diliyoruz. Özbek halkının acılarını paylaşıyoruz. Türkiye Cumhuriyeti olarak.
Becoming a leader of the country while it was still a republic of the Soviet Union, Karimov assumed presidency of Uzbekistan in 1991. In 1995, his mandate was extended for another 5 years by referendum. Election in 2000, 2007 and 2015. Karimov has no official successor. The most likely candidate to replace him appears to be the country's longtime Prime Minister, Shavkat Mirziyoyev. However, there are few official clues as to how Uzbekistan's new leader may be picked. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, at least 12 people were killed and dozens injured after an explosion in a market in the home city of Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. The incident took place at a street market outside the Marco Polo Hotel in Davao in the southern Philippines. According to police, at least 30 people had been taken to the hospital. The cause of the blast was not immediately clear. Police began their investigation to find out the cause of the explosion. Now, President Duterte is hugely popular in Davao, having served as its mayor for more than 22 years before his stunning national election win in May. Now, his election has prompted a spike in drug-related killings, with more than 2,000 people killed since he took office on 30th of June, nearly half of them in police operations. Now, his son, Paulo Duterte, who is the vice mayor of the city, said that he received a text message warning him of a threat 2 days before the explosion, but he did not give any more details.
Hindi natin alam kung what caused the explosion here. So kung masabi sa atin na IED or something or grenade, so dyan pa natin ma-confirm na confirm talaga yung confidential na text message.
And news from Bangladesh, where the police has killed the second in command of the Dhaka cafe siege, in which 22 people were killed in July. The man, known as Murad, was the head of the military wing of the Jamaatul Mujahideen Bangladesh, which has pledged allegiance to the Islamic State. Now, Murad was killed in a shootout after police launched a raid at his hideouts outside the capital, Dhaka. 3 policemen, including the officer in charge of the nearby police station, were also wounded in the gunfight with the terrorist. The raid came 6 days after Bangladesh-born Canadian citizen Tamim Ahmed Chaudhry, accused of masterminding the cafe attack, was killed. News from the US now, where one person has been killed as Hurricane Hermine hit Florida on Friday, causing severe damage and knocking out power to nearly 3 lakh homes and businesses. Well, after making landfall early on Friday, Hermine swept through Florida and Georgia. Gusts of 130 km/h caused storm surges that flooded parts of the Florida coast. Now, in the town of Saydarkey, waters rose more than 9.5 feet, among the highest surges ever seen. Now, having a weekend for a tropical storm, it entered South Carolina, where local officials have reported flooded roads, fallen trees and power outages. Now, a state of emergency remains in effect in most of the Florida, and emergencies have also been declared in Georgia, North Carolina, Maryland and Virginia. There are concerns over stagnant water in the state of Florida, which has been battling the mosquito-borne Zika virus. Now downgraded to a tropical storm, Hermine is pushing northeastward. A tropical storm warning has been issued for parts of New Jersey, Connecticut and New York City.
We get out of bed, the water is ankle deep, and go and open the door. Floodwaters come rushing in. Now the water inside the house is knee deep. We go, we get all the kids up and load them into the truck, and by the time we got out of there, we're trying to drive out of Huntington Beach. Water was up to our thighs. We're waiting out of there. Just barely made it out of there.
It seems like this storm was a little stronger than the previous one. So whatever we did and the neighbors, the sandbagging, it just didn't work. I mean, it was the pressure, it just, in the, I guess, the height of the surge, that nothing really helped.
And now news from the US Open. Well, top seed Tanya Mirza and her mixed doubles partner Eva Dodic of Croatia have won the first round, beating US pair of Taylor Townsend and Donald Rung in straight sets, 6-4, 6-4. Now, Sania has last won the US Open in the mixed doubles event in 2004, along with Bruno Soares of Brazil. Meanwhile, Rohan Bopanna and his Danish partner Fredrik Nielsen have lost in the second round of the men's doubles to US-New Zealand pair of Brian Baker and Marcus Daniel. Liana Pace has also crashed out of the men's doubles championship in the first round. Meanwhile, in the men's singles, defending champion Novak Djokovic secured a place in the last 16 of the tournament, getting another walkover over injured Russian player Mikhail Yokozhiny, who withdrew from the match only after 6 games. Meanwhile, a 2-time US Open champion Rafael Nadal has also advanced to the 4th round, beating Andrei Kuznetsov of Russia in straight sets. And in the women's singles, former world number 1 Caroline Wozniacki continued her winning streak as she entered in the 4th round of the tournament, defeating her Romanian opponent Monica Niculescu in straight sets.
Court coverage, forcing the error from Niculescu.
That's it from me and my team in this edition of news. Thanks for watching.